Hello everybody! So how do you keep your .NET projects up to date with the latest NuGet packages? This is Stef from Samayas and welcome to my channel. Well, if you're just working on one big project, it's quite easy, right? Every couple of days, somebody from the team opens up a NuGet on a solution and looks for packages that need to be upgraded. However, if you are maintaining multiple solutions, going from NuGet packages to internal frameworks, to multiple sub-websites, to tools, etc., they can quickly become quite complicated, right? The question, of course, is when to find out when you need to take some action. As long as your solution is under active development, this will be spotted quite fast. However, when your solution or project is in production, following up on that is much faster forgotten. Well, for that nowadays you have Dotnet List Packages command. I can check for outdated packages. And if you want to automate that to an Azure DevOps, I've even created an Azure DevOps Dotnet List Packages Check extension. But you might just as well do it with a PowerShell script. Now, depending on how fast you want to follow up on those packages, you could create a nightly build for that, or a weekly build, or even a monthly build, and then tackle that. So if you create a build for that, with that extension, or PowerShell, if you start to have outdated packages, then that build will fail. And then you will either receive a mail, or it will show up somewhere in a dashboard. So let's dig in. So now I'm in my Azure DevOps, and I went to Pipelines, and I have a list of all my recently run pipelines. And first, I go to all pipelines. And the first thing I did, I created a number of folders. First, I created a build folder wherein I put my build pipelines. Then I created a CI folder and I put in all my CI pipelines. And then I created a weekly version check folders. And I created a weekly version check folder. And I created my version check pipeline. Now let's have a look at that version check pipeline. And it's a very simple pipeline. I choose my agent pool onto which it's going to run. I select my repo and the branch. And here in general you will select a main branch because you want to build on something which is stable to see if something has modified regarding NuGet. And then I create an agent. The first thing I do is I do a .NET restore and I retrieve all NuGet packages for all my CS project files. And then I call my .NET List Core List Package Check task, but you might just as well create a PowerShell for that and call .NET List Package yourself. And I go look for all outdated packages for all versions, and I don't go one level down. And should you have solutions in subdirectories, you might change the advanced, and that's it. And now let's have a run. And so already we're quite lucky. Between the last check-in and now, we were using Microsoft.NET.Test.SDK in version 17.14.1, and we went to version 18. And we were using MS-Test Test Adapter and MS-Test Test Framework in version 3.10.4, and for both packages we went to version 4. So in essence, our pipeline is already working, is failing, and that's the result we want. And now that we're back in our build pipeline, we go into triggers. And contrary to our CI, we're not going to trigger on continuous integration, but first we're going to trigger based on a schedule. And so we're going to add a schedule. And here, depending on what you want to do, you can say you can schedule it every day or once a week. For instance, Monday at 3 o'clock. And after this, after saving, it'll trigger every Monday at 3 o'clock. And again, we specify the branch. We're only working on the main branch. And if we now go back to our pipelines, well, we can see we have an issue in our weekly pipeline. And then depending on how your system is configured, you will receive a mail specifying that this pipeline has failed. Or, of course, using integration tools, you could put this in a dashboard and your Azure pipeline fails. And when that pipeline fails, you know that you need to modify some versions. And now the final action which you want to do is you want to trigger a build completion if another pipeline runs. And that depends on your situation. Say on Monday morning, we arrive at the office at 7, 8, 9 in the morning, and we see that this pipeline has failed, and we do all modifications, which we update the code, we trigger a CI build, we trigger a normal build, and we make everything okay. But this build will not run for another week. And so in order to fix that, we will modify build completion, and in here we will specify that whenever we have a CI build or whenever we have a normal build run, automatically this one will be run again. So that's an option which avoids us to have to manually re-trigger this build in order to clear this error and to update our dashboard. And so now I opened up my Visual Studio, I'm in my main, I already have my main locked down and I can't immediately do anything in my main, so I'll create a new local branch. And so I created an update to latest local branch. I update all my packages. This is just a normal process. I update all my packages to latest. Of course, here I should have run all my unit tests and tested that whatever I need to test my application is still working. And now I'm back in my repo. I need to create a pull request. And so I need to approve, and I approve, and I do a complete. And so my pull request is completed. And I have my CI build, which is running, which is okay. And I need to wait for it to complete. And so my CI build completed, and the merge happened. And automatically my normal build is triggered. And so my normal build completed. And now my weekly version check is triggered. And so this time our weekly version check is okay. And if we go back to everything, now we have a working weekly version check. So in essence, it's quite simple to set this up. So the more we can automate things, the easier we can make our lives, right? Of course, this is just an indication that some action is required. And you still need to take that action yourself. And then pass through all the automated and manual validation processes and the release management for your project. If you guys enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell sign. Or leave a comment down below.